This is a radio station of the SDC Radio Networks.
Lock it on to the best station on the net, around the planet on the World Wide Web. The Daily Dose. Don't go anywhere. In the mix.
In the mix. And this is your host, Kenny Smith. Oh, by the way, I'm supposed to be playing you the new one. Check this out. It's supposed to go like this. Here we go.
You are listening to Internet Radio's award-winning SmithBits Talk magazine on SDC's Rant and Rave Radio. Your host, Kenneth Howard Smith. A station of the SDC Radio Works. Thanks for listening.
Hey, thanks for listening. I love that British accent. I love that British sound. Anyway, you guys, a lot to talk about today. Actually, not too much to talk about today. See, Senator Kamala Harris is running. And, who's the contenders? Well, the CEO from Starbucks, he's running hard. So, and, Roger Stone. By the way, when you get to this website, if you go to my SmithBits blog, you'll see the show here if you're not watching it already. I should say watching it and listening to it. There's a picture of a t-shirt. I had to just get in on it. God, I couldn't really resist. It's the t-shirt, basically, it's bring me the head of Roger Stone. And then there's a picture of a Roger Stone looking like the 007 character. You know, very intriguing. Then also at the bottom, you'll see a picture of his back, where he has the tattoo of Richard Nixon on his backside, on his shoulder blades, right in the middle of his back. Boy, that must have been a hard tattoo. But anyway, Roger Stone is the boy. What can I tell you? But anyway, as the show gets started, we're going to have music from Jan Daley from 2018. It's called The Way of the Woman. And we're going to go with Katrina Bishop. And we're going to do Wine and Cheese. And we're going to do the Yuval Bless song, You're Living in a Dream World, with Gal Livy. That's our music for the day, courtesy of SDC Radio and KDTN Radio 1. Anyway, let's get started right quick. Local flavor. I like to do local news. This is from the Bee. I should say, what is this? This is the Beehive. Pardon me. The Beehive. And the Arizona Beehive, February 2019. And it's volume 45, issue number 1. And in the Beehive, there's a small story of the Serene family. And it's Sirrine. Serene or Serine. Anyway, George Warren Serine, one of Macy's founding fathers and the community builder of the West. Okay? So anyway, I'm going to read this for you right quick before we get into Reuters Now. Then my news story. One thing really nice about using Reuters Now is that we also have a radio station that we're in partnership with BBC Music 6. So we're one of their partners, and you'll see our logo basically all together. And you can get your music on BBC. You can go through our website, and it has a sign up to submit your music to BBC Music. Okay? And, but anyway, that's something else. You can go on the website at sdcog.net. But anyway, so a little story out here of the West. And we're going to get started right with it. And a little background music, please. So here we go with George Warren Serine. Let's go. George Serine is considered one of the 4 founding fathers of Mesa, memorialized in a statue in Pioneer Park. Born in Putnam County, New York on December 6, 1818, to Isaac Sarine and Sarah Garrison. George showed promise in his unique attitude with machinery. By 16, his father had given him full responsibility of the family mill. And after joining the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, George left his home state on the ship Brooklyn, sailing from New York around South America's Cape Horn to San Francisco in 1846. A fellow passenger on the ship, Emmeline Lane, caught George's attention, and the two were married by Samuel Brannan soon after their arrival to California. Now, legend has it is that their marriage was the first ceremony performed in the English language on the Pacific coast. Now, while in California, Emmeline gave birth to their daughter, Sarah Ann. Tragically, Emmeline died before the child was a year old. Later, George married Esther Ann Crimson. George helped settle the area that is now San Bernardino, and he was tasked by the church with taking the San Francisco subscription, which he had helped raise, to San Diego. En route to San Diego, George was outwitted two sketchy characters who were after the cash. George had duped the would-be thieves by putting the money in some old boots in his tool chest, and in full view of the crooks, removing everything from the chest and being sure to clean and polish his boots. The two, apparently convinced that they followed the wrong man, disembarked at the next port. Now, George arrived in the Salt Lake Valley in 1858 from California, and he was bringing with him the first load of honey, which he sold at a very good price. Now, 8 years later, he moved his family to Paris, Idaho, to help colonize the Bear Lake area. He helped construct and run the first grist mill and sawmill and opened a mercantile store. Now, Brigham Young called George to help colonize Arizona 11 years later. Now, on September 10, 1877, they headed south, joining 9 other families, totaling in all 27 people. Now, they reached Lee's Ferry at the Colorado River. Now, George helped the others to safely cross the perilous river. And once they arrived at the Salt River Valley, the party learned of ancient canals and determined to bring water to the Mesa area from the river. Now, George set to work on planting orchards, helping to colonize Zion's cooperative, as well as building the first flour mill in the locale, as described in Patricia A. Piper's Our Pioneer's Heritage. Now, according to George's great-grandfather, Ryan Sarine, settlers learned to build with adobe from the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indians. The Sarine House, located in downtown Mesa, memorializes the building spirit of the pioneer family. The town's only Victorian-era home, still standing, became a museum in 1986. Now, tours are available on Fridays and Saturdays at 53 North McDonald, and the phone number is 480-644-2230, or you can visit the Mesa Historical Museum on their website. So anyway, that's my story of that great family, of the Serine family, that helped populate the Mesa area and grew the first fruit trees, the orange trees and everything around here. And I tell you what, we like that. That really works out really great. So anyway, let's all get along with some music. And what can I tell you? We're going to start off with Jan Daley. And it's The Way of a Woman. Considering that all the women are running for president, why not? This is a Women's Day song. Here we go. Jan Daley, The Way of a Woman.
Doesn't take a dancing anymore, and not a day goes by without a fight. They don't do much talking like before, and he's coming home in the middle of the night. Lately, her heart's been trying to got secrets stashed in every corner, and she's a step away from stumbling over all the lies that stand in the way of a woman when she's losing her mind.
This is a radio station of the SDC radio networks. The music of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Thanks for listening.
And there you have Jan Daley, The Way of a Woman, here on SmithBits Radio. And we're going to continue with our show before we get to Reuters Now. And we're going to lighten it up a little bit with Katrina Bishop. And it's Wine and Cheese. This is from our KDT and radio family's digital music. And this is just a little light song. And it's kind of funny. I love it. It's called Wine and Cheese. Check it out.
wine and cheese. I really like these. They go very well together. They make life better for me. Wine and cheese. I really, really, really like these. And the wine alone is fine alone, and cheese alone is fine by me. Together they're more than the sum of their parts, just like some beautiful dream. And that's why wine and cheese are good for me. Fresh Swiss chard. You know, it's really quite hard to say that 5 times fast, but I think I've got it at last. Fresh Swiss chard. Fresh Swiss chard, fresh Swiss chard, fresh Swiss chard, fresh Swiss chard, fresh Swiss chard. Makes me so happy, I'll tell you why. It takes me back to when I was a kid, and my mom and dad grew it in their garden. And now fresh Swiss chard, it grows for me. Mathematics, I used to think I didn't like it, until I found some really cool YouTube videos that let the magic shine. Now I like mathematics, even when my brain hurts from it. Fibonacci everywhere, Pythagoras in irrational pi. And I like to know the speed of light is 299,792.458 kilometers per second. Now I see mathematics all around me. Wine and cheese, fresh Swiss chard, mathematics, all there for me.
This is a radio station of the SDC radio networks. The music of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Thanks for listening.
Oh, I love you. Thanks for listening. And like I said, I lightened up the show a little bit with Katrina Bishop's Wine and Cheese. And we're going to continue on before we get to Reuters Now. And we're living in a dream world with Yuval Bless.
Look at the stay alive. We're living in a dream world, we're alive, that's all. We're living in a dream world, we're alive, that's all. When I look up at the sky and believe together we can smile and share a tear. Baby, open your eyes and see. Oh, come with me to live my dream world. We're alive, and that's all.
This is a radio station of the SDC Radio Networks. The music of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Thanks for listening.
You are listening to Internet Radio's award-winning SmithBits Talk magazine on SDC's Lantern Rave Radio. Your host Kenneth Howard Smith. A station of the SDC Radio Works. Thanks for listening.
Donald Trump rants and raves at the press. I'm not ranting and raving. I'm just telling you, you're dishonest people. But, I'm not ranting and raving. I love this. I'm having a good time doing it. But tomorrow the headlines are going to be Donald Trump rants and raves. I'm not ranting and raving.
This is a radio station of the SDC Radio Networks. The music of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Thanks for listening.
Oh, thanks for listening. Hey, this is Kenny Smith, or Kenneth Howard Smith, however we want to do it. But anyway, time for Reuters Now. And we're going to end our show. And we want to thank each and every last one of you for hanging out with me for this little bit of time. And I know your time is precious, and I do appreciate each and every one of you. Keep those cards and letters. Keep them emails, by the way, okay? I get a ton of them. Some you like, some I don't, but hey, I love them all. Send them on in to me. You got my address, you got the phone number, you guys got everything. You know where I'm at. So anyway, call me once in a while if you want to hang out with me. But other than that, Reuters Now. Thank you for listening.
Commit the most brazen robbery ever. This is Reuters Now.
After more than 17 years of war, American officials are sending some of the clearest signs yet that a U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan is in the works after peace talks yielded progress toward a deal. A senior U.S. government official told Reuters on Monday Washington is committed to bringing U.S. troops home and leaving behind a good legacy. Those comments follow 6 days of U.S. peace talks with Afghan Taliban militants in Qatar. The official described significant progress in those talks, but said more negotiations were needed to address the withdrawal and a ceasefire. The U.S. official said there could not be a withdrawal without a ceasefire, but the Taliban want U.S. and allied troops gone first. On Monday, the New York Times reported the two sides had agreed on a framework for a deal. About 14,000 U.S. troops remain in Afghanistan as part of a NATO-led mission to train, advise, and assist the Afghan forces.
It's true. Humans would do anything for avocados from Mexico. No judgment. It was the 80s.
Avocados from Mexico.
I am seriously thinking of running for president. I will run as a centrist independent outside of the two-party system.
Just a day after former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz said he was weighing a bid for the White House, its current resident lambasted the coffee billionaire. Donald Trump on Monday tweeted, Howard Schultz doesn't have the guts to run for president.
Not only the fact that this president is not qualified to be the president, but the fact that both parties are consistently not doing what's necessary on behalf of the American people and are engaged every single day in revenge politics.
Schultz told CBS 60 Minutes on Sunday that despite being a lifelong Democrat and champion of liberal causes such as same-sex marriage, he believed the party was moving in a direction out of step with American voters. More Democratic hopefuls are entering the 2020 race, many with progressive platforms. Senator Kamala Harris launched her campaign with a rally Sunday.
I am running to declare, once and for all, that health care is a fundamental right and we will deliver that right with Medicare for all.
But what the Democrats are proposing is something that is as false as the wall, and that is free health care for all, in which the country cannot afford.
Third-party independents have a poor track record in American presidential elections. They've never won office and are often blamed for siphoning off voters from one party or the other. Democrats blamed the Green Party's Ralph Nader for Al Gore's loss in 2000. Republicans accuse Reform Party candidate Ross Perot of delivering the White House to Bill Clinton. Schultz told CBS he had learned from his career to surround himself with more intelligent people to help steer his decisions. Trump on Monday derided that lesson, tweeting, "Watched him on 60 Minutes last night, and I agree with him that he is not the smartest person. Besides, America already has that. I only hope that Starbucks is still paying me their rent in Trump Tower."
Federal employees impacted by a 35-day partial shutdown are back at work Monday.
In the future, I hope that shutdowns like this are avoided.
A deal reached Friday funded the government for 3 weeks, with the pledge Democrats and Republicans would renew talks on border security. But President Donald Trump still doesn't think lawmakers will reach an agreement that he could accept. In a Wall Street Journal interview Sunday, he said the chances of a new deal being struck before the government shuts down again are less than 50-50. And if he doesn't get his wall, the president said he'd go forward with it anyway, using emergency powers. Something echoed by his acting White House chief of staff over the weekend.
He's willing to do whatever it takes to secure the border. He does take this very seriously. He doesn't want to shut the government down. Let's make that very clear. He doesn't want to declare a national emergency.
But it's unclear what other options the president has. His decision to reopen the government on Friday without any agreements from Democrats to fund a border wall was widely seen as a major defeat for Trump on perhaps his most prominent promise. But as the shutdown dragged on, Republican lawmakers increasingly recoiled at the hardship imposed on everyday Americans.
Shutdowns are never good policy, ever.
It's uncertain how much support the president will have from his own caucus if he tries the strategy again. And if he tries to declare a national emergency to build a wall, he will almost certainly face a challenge in court.
A defiant Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, who rejected an international ultimatum to call elections within 8 days, watched a display of his army's latest Russian hardware Sunday. Flanked by the defense minister, Maduro said this showed the world that he had the nation's military firmly behind his rule. The show of force comes after opposition leader Juan Guaido gained international support after he recently declared himself Venezuela's interim leader. On Sunday, U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton warned that violence or intimidation of American diplomats or Guaido would trigger a response from the United States. Guaido had his own message to the Venezuelan military. His supporters handed out copies of a proposed amnesty plan for civilians and military who collaborate in the transition of government. Many foreign governments describe Maduro's victory in elections last year as a sham. And U.S. President Donald Trump, for one, is standing firm in recognizing Guaido as interim leader. In a Sunday interview with CNN Turk, Maduro said he was open to dialogue and that meeting with Trump was improbable but not impossible. This, a day after U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo urged members of the UN Security Council to
pick a side
and financially boycott Maduro's government.
Either you stand with the forces of freedom or you're in league with Maduro and his mayhem.
American ally Israel on Sunday lined up behind Washington.
In recognizing the new leadership in Venezuela.
Maduro has ruled over Venezuela since 2013, presiding over the nation's descent into turmoil with food shortages, street protests, the exodus of millions, and inflation, forecast to hit 10 million% this year. Pope Francis is calling for a peaceful solution in Venezuela that respects human rights. As a host of nations like Britain, Germany, and France all said they would recognize Guaido if Maduro failed to call fresh elections within 8 days.
Cannon fire and soldiers welcomed French President Emmanuel Macron in Egypt on Monday. Such a militaristic welcome may be deemed bitterly appropriate by NGOs, as they renew their pressure on Paris's arms sales to Cairo. Since 2011, France has become the main provider of military and security equipment to Egypt, according to Amnesty International. That business has cooled since Macron came to power. But Amnesty says the equipment has been used in the violation of human rights, particularly in cracking down on protests.
France fed the repression because between 2012 and 2014, France provided more than 100 armoured vehicles.
Amnesty says there are copious examples of French-supplied Sherpa and MIDS vehicles being used to violently crush dissent. The Sherpa can be seen here in Cairo on August the 14th, 2013, the day of the Rabat massacre, in which hundreds of protesters were killed. That was a month after Sisi engineered a coup to oust former President Mohamed Morsi. 5 months after Macron came to power, he hosted Sisi, seeing him as a stabilising force and seeking to bolster business and defence ties. Macron handed Sisi a list of prisoners he wanted released from detention. 3 sources aware of the exchange told Reuters Macron was rebuffed. Taken aback, Macron later told the media it was not up to him to lecture Egypt on civil liberties. But more than a year has passed, and NGOs seeking a tougher line from Macron have warned that a crackdown on freedoms has only worsened. While Macron is still seeking defence and business contracts while in Egypt, he does appear to be taking a tougher stance. On Monday, he told Sisi that stability and security cannot be separated from human rights.
Philippine security forces blame an affiliate of militant group Abu Sayyaf for a deadly church attack over the weekend. More specifically, authorities said it was orchestrated by a faction called Ajang Ajang, a group that's notorious in the region for kidnapping and extortion. Police say Ajang Ajang carried out the attack as revenge for the deaths of relatives killed during military operations against Abu Sayyaf. The bombing on Saturday killed at least 20 people and injured over 100. It was one of the deadliest attacks in recent years, hitting Jolo, a predominantly Muslim island in the south. It also came just days after a referendum on autonomy in the region, in which residents voted overwhelmingly yes. Authorities say the group outsmarted law enforcement authorities and were able to pull off the attack despite tightened security for the referendum. Many are worried it will inspire other groups to do more.
It's the largest tax cut in the history of our country.
U.S. President Donald Trump and his Republican Party touted a $1.5 trillion tax cut as a major windfall for Americans and American business.
It's going to be something very special. You see what it's done for the country. It's going to be something very, very special.
But the largest overhaul of the U.S. tax code in 30 years appeared to have no major impact on companies' capital investments or hiring plans. A quarterly survey by the National Association of Business Economics published on Monday found that while some firms said they sped up investments because of lower corporate taxes, 84% of respondents said they had not changed plans. That compares to 81% in the previous survey published in October.
We got the biggest tax cuts in the history of our country, and we also have major tax reform. It's had a tremendous impact on our country. You see it, and everybody sees it.
The White House had predicted that the tax cut, which slashed the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%, would boost business spending and job growth. The tax cuts went into effect a year ago. About two-thirds of U.S. households are estimated to receive a tax cut on their 2018 incomes. But changes to how the IRS calculates withholdings could mean many households have already received their tax cuts throughout the year and will see less of a tax refund in 2019.
Donald Trump's administration has lifted sanctions on 3 firms linked to oligarch Oleg Deripaska, an ally of Vladimir Putin. That decision defies a push by the Democrats in U.S. Congress to maintain those restrictions. Democrats had warned that Deripaska retained too much control over the companies. They said it would be inappropriate to lift sanctions imposed last April. Those had been put in place to punish Russia for actions including its annexation of Ukraine's Crimea, efforts to interfere in U.S. elections, and support for Syria's government in its civil war. 11 of Trump's fellow Republicans in the U.S. Senate agreed. Some lawmakers from both parties also said sanctions shouldn't be lifted, while special counsel Robert Mueller investigates whether Trump's 2016 presidential campaign colluded with Moscow. Deripaska had ties with Paul Manafort, Trump's former campaign manager. Manafort pleaded guilty in September 2018 to attempted witness tampering and conspiring against the United States. The U.S. Treasury Department say the 3 companies have reduced Deripaska's direct and indirect shareholding stake and cut his control, but the man himself remains subject to U.S. sanctions. There are subtle, intricately planned art thefts, and then there's this. This Russian man may have committed the most brazen robbery in history. On Sunday, his target was Moscow's State Tretyakov Gallery. He strolled unchallenged past security and visitors who mistook him for an employee. Lifting the Eye Petri Crimea painting off the wall, he strolled back out of the gallery without raising any suspicion or even an eyebrow. The artwork, valued at around $1 million, was part of a temporary exhibition at the gallery, which hadn't been fitted with alarms. Police soon caught up with the 31-year-old suspect after a tip-off, and he was arrested, but not before he had a chance to protest his innocence on camera, saying he was a law-abiding citizen of Russia. Red-faced officials recovered the painting and insisted that all pictures at the gallery will be fitted with sensors and alarms from now on.
Well, there you have it. And we have our Reuters Now for the midday. Anyway, before I get out of here, I got to talk to you about something. I just got this, and I wrote about it a little bit the other day in my blog. It's about the deportation of Southeast Asians from the United States. I mean, at an alarming rate. Trump administration, thousands a week are being deported back to Southeast Asia. Okay? Trump has gone crazy. And he's deporting children that were born here. They're Americans. And they're being deported back to Vietnam, back to, everywhere. China, Singapore. It's incredible. Korea. This is and nobody's talking about this. He's just absolutely gone off the chain. Oh, God, what can I say? But anyway, I just wanted to let you know about the Southeast Asian deportations are up sky high. You can read about it. All right? Anyway, been your host, Kenny Smith, and this is SmithBits, and we are Rant and Rave Radio. Thank you for listening.
Donald Trump rants and raves at the press. I'm not ranting and raving. I'm just telling you, you're dishonest people. But, I'm not ranting and raving. I love this. I'm having a good time doing it. But tomorrow the headlines are going to be Donald Trump rants and raves. I'm not ranting and raving.
This is a radio station of the SDC radio networks. The music of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Thanks for listening.